What's good, everyone? Welcome back into Behind Your Basketball. The 2022 NBA Draft is just around the corner. In this video, I'm going to do my prediction for my 2022 NBA mock draft for picks number 1 through 14 in the NBA Draft Lottery. These picks are not necessarily by who's the better player, but who I think will make the best fit for each of these teams. Before I do start my mock draft, I'd like to let you guys know to check out my channel for play-by-play live streams as I cover games throughout the NBA Finals. I cover not only NBA games, but also college basketball games as well. So if you haven't checked out my play-by-play live streams before, I would highly recommend it. Now it's time to start off my NBA mock draft. The top 3 picks in the draft all making a reasonable case each to go at number 1 between Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, and Jabari Smith Jr. I predict the Orlando Magic to take at number 1, Jabari Smith Jr., freshman power forward 6'10", from the Auburn Tigers. I can just vision Smith in the Magic uniform. I think that he can add the most balance between his scoring and his defense at number 1. Smith led Auburn this past season, averaging 16.9 points per game while making 42% of his three-point shots. He's a long, athletic power forward with size, length, versatility, a great shooting stroke, and can constantly knock down tough shots in one-on-one situations. He can hit turnaround and fadeaway jumpers. He can also play in the post, make mid-range shots, and hit shots out on the perimeter. Smith's rise is a knockdown threat from deep. That was evident when he made at least 3 threes in his last 7 of 9 games. His 2 best offensive games of his college career was when he combined to shoot the ball 11 for 15 from three-point range in a 2-game stretch in mid-February versus Vanderbilt in Florida, scoring 31 and 28 points in back-to-back games. Auburn's head coach Bruce Pearl stated that, quote, "Jabari Smith Jr. is the best player that he's ever coached," close quote. Smith's defense separates himself from the others in this draft by how he can go out and defend the perimeter with his size and his length. My only concern for Smith, though, is during his last game at Auburn, he went out on a low note, shot the ball just 3 of 16 from the floor. He only scored 10 points in the 79-61 second-round loss against Miami in the NCAA tournament. Smith has the least NCAA tournament experience of the top 3 projected picks due to his team being bounced out the earliest before Chet Holmgren of Gonzaga and Paolo Banchero of Duke. The Magic ranked 29th in scoring this past season, 28th in three-point shooting, and 26th in most three-point shots allowed. Those are areas where Smith can come in and provide an immediate boost for the Magic. I have Orlando taking Jabari Smith Jr. at number 1. Now at number 2, I predict the Oklahoma City Thunder will pick Chet Holmgren, freshman power forward / center, 7-footer from Gonzaga. Holmgren is a 7-foot big man, weighing at just 195 pounds. He has incredible handles and playmaking abilities. He plays like a guard for his size. Offensively, he's a solid perimeter shooter with great range and made 39% of his threes at Gonzaga. He's an efficient scorer, making over 60% of his shots from the floor. Defensively, Chet can change the course of a game with his tremendous length and by blocking and altering shots at a high clip. Holmgren has the opportunity to be an elite-level shot blocker in the NBA. He ranked 4th nationally at Gonzaga, averaging 3.7 blocks per game. However, I do have some worrisome areas about the future of Chet Holmgren and how he will hold up in the NBA. I would not be shocked if Holmgren pans out to be a bust in the league. My first concern with Holmgren is his skinny frame at being just 195 pounds, despite being 7 feet tall. He needs to gain more muscle as he lacks strength when finishing possessions in the paint. I see him better off at playing the 4 instead of the 5 on the floor, since he would take on a ton of physical bodies at the center position. I have the feeling that he's going to struggle versus the more dominant players in the league. Put this dude up against Giannis, Embiid, or the Joker, and I think that Chet Holmgren's going to get absolutely wrecked. Another worry of mine for Chet's future was that he got into a ton of foul trouble when the games mattered the most during the NCAA tournament. He picked up 13 personal fouls in 3 NCAA tournament games, falling out twice against Memphis and Arkansas. Teams constantly kept on attacking Holmgren on the floor, and it looked like he got overwhelmed with the physicality. Physicality that Gonzaga does not prepare well enough for the NCAA tournament each year, with power conference players being another step up in the weight class. Holmgren also struggled against quality competition, averaging just 9.7 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, and shooting just 4 for 20 from three-point range at 20% during 7 games versus quality opponents on the schedule. Those 7 opponents included Texas, UCLA, Duke, Alabama, Texas Tech, Memphis, and Arkansas. Those numbers are well below Chet's season averages, since easier competition in the West Coast Conference happened to boost up his numbers, as Holmgren averaged above 14 points per game game, just under 10 rebounds per game, 3.7 blocks per game, and shot the ball 39% from the perimeter. The Thunder are a team that's rebuilding and could take on the risk of a player such as Chet Holmgren and hope that Chet can be their next big franchise player. Chet would form the Twin Towers of 7-footers, playing beside another intriguing draft prospect from the 2020 NBA draft class with Aleksej Pokusevski. The Thunder ranked last this past season in field goal shooting percentage, three-point shooting percentage, and Holmgren, he ranked 10th in the nation in college basketball with a field goal shooting percentage of above 60%. Chet Holmgren should be able to boost up Oklahoma City's offensive efficiency on the floor. I've got the Thunder selecting Chet Holmgren at number 2. Now at number 3, I predict the Houston Rockets to select Paolo Banchero, freshman 6'10" power forward from the Duke Blue Devils. Houston will go with whoever the best draft pick is remaining on the board, with a clear-cut top 3 prospects to choose from with Smith, Holmgren, and Banchero. I've got Banchero falling to the Rockets at number 3. Banchero believes that he's the best player in this draft class, and Banchero's opinion lines up with my thoughts about him as well. I predict that Paolo Banchero will pan out to be the best pick from this draft class in the future. I envision him to be drafted by the Houston Rockets, with Houston's future looking super bright. Banchero is a big, strong, physical, athletic power forward who can get buckets by creating his own shot. He can make extremely tough shots. He bullied players in the paint at the collegiate level by getting to the rim and using his size and strength to score buckets. He's also got great footwork in the post. He uses a spin move to his advantage. He's an efficient interior scorer and constantly won one-on-one matchups in the post and was a big reason why Duke was the number 2 team in the nation in total 2-point makes. Banchero is also a great playmaker. He would team up extremely well with Jalen Duren, who has elite offensive upside. Banchero led Duke as a freshman this past season in scoring and rebounding, averaging 17.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and shot the ball just under 48% from the floor. He is not afraid of the big moments and shined in the NCAA tournament, taking Duke to the Final Four. Banchero scored a tournament game-high 22 points against Texas Tech, which Texas Tech ranked as the number 1 defense in defensive efficiency per KenPom. Banchero rallied his team to 2 second-half comebacks in the NCAA tournament versus Michigan State and Texas Tech. His improvement areas include his defense and three-point shooting. He wasn't always actively engaged in the defensive side of the floor and does lack quickness. There's promise, though, that Banchero can improve at the NBA level with his defense and perimeter shots. Banchero made some big stops in crunch time during the tournament, including a massive block on Joey Hauser while up by 1 point with 1:45 left to go against Michigan State. In the tournament, Banchero shot the ball 10 for 19 from three-point range, leaving a lot of room for optimism for the future. Banchero fits Houston best with his instant scoring punch that he should add along with his playmaking. Houston also needs some more size in their roster. The Rockets rank last in rebounding and 28th in 2-point makes per game, both areas where Banchero should be able to provide an immediate boost to the Houston Rockets. Banchero and Jalen Duren will make an explosive pairing out in H-Town. I've got Paolo Banchero going number 3 to the Houston Rockets. Now at number 4, I predict the Sacramento Kings to select Shaedon Sharpe, freshman 6'6" shooting guard from the Kentucky Wildcats. Sacramento's pick I predict is down to either Jaden Ivey, Shaedon Sharpe, or AJ Griffin. I'll predict the Kings to go after Sharpe with his high upside. Sharpe is the biggest mystery out of this year's draft class. He reclassified a year early and went to Kentucky for his spring semester. He is one of the youngest players in this year's class, as he turned 19 years old on May 30th. Sharpe is an athletic freak with great length. He has a 7-foot wingspan, a great finisher at the rim, and he plays above the rim and was a constant lob threat during his high school days playing at Dream City Christian School in Arizona. He's viewed as a solid ball handler. He moves extremely well on the open floor and can come up with defensive stops and blocks in transition. He's super physical and has great hand-eye coordination with his instincts with active hands to force deflections and hustles for loose balls on the floor. Offensively, Sharpe has great shooting mechanics as a knockdown shooter from the perimeter. He can make threes off the dribble. Most of the shots that Sharpe attempted during high school were either dunks at the rim or perimeter shots. So he'll have to start to work more of a mid-range game in there. The big question, of course, is how Sharpe will be able to transition into the NBA with no actual in-game experience at the collegiate level. That's a major step up without the college game experience in there. The Kings are a team that don't need to play their draft pick safe, and they could use a high upside draft pick like Sharpe at number 4. Sacramento ranked 29th in total defense and perimeter defense this past season. The Kings, they could use a high upside wing with size and length like Sharpe, who can put together defensive stops on the floor for Sacramento. That's where I get the Kings picking Shaedon Sharpe at number 4. Now at number 5, I predict the Detroit Pistons to select Jaden Ivey, sophomore 6'4" shooting guard from Purdue. A gift to the Pistons indeed if Ivey does drop to number 5. Ivey is an athletic, explosive, super electric, shifty guard who's got a super quick first step and can get downhill to the rim in a hurry. He takes long strides and at times looks like he's gliding to get to the rim. Ivey finishes well through contact inside. He's efficient from 2. He's a great ball handler and also has a solid step-back perimeter shot. 2 big areas of improvement for Ivey from year 1 to year 2 at Purdue includes his playmaking and perimeter shooting. Ivey's assist numbers went up from 1.9 assists per game during his freshman season to 3.1 assists per game during his sophomore season. His three-point shooting percentage went up to a 10% increase, 25.8% during his first season to 35.8% during his second season. He has a 6'9" wingspan, and when engaged on defense, he can come up with defensive stops and blocks with his length and athleticism. Ivey still has a ton of room to grow, both as a playmaker and perimeter scorer, but the main area of improvement for Ivey comes in the defensive side of the floor. Scouts view Ivey not engaged often on times at defense. Ivey led Purdue this past season scoring. He averaged 17.3 points per game on a team that ranked number 2 in the nation in offensive efficiency per KenPom. The Detroit Pistons ranked number 29 in the NBA this past season in scoring, and they could use Ivey to boost up their scoring production. Pairing up Ivey with Cade Cunningham in the backcourt, that would be fantastic for Detroit because of Ivey's ability to score buckets off the catch and off the dribble with Cade Cunningham setting him up. That's where I've got Jaden Ivey going number 5 to the Pistons. Now at number 6, I predict the Indiana Pacers will select Keegan Murray, sophomore 6'8" power forward from the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa hasn't produced a first-round draft pick since 1998. They will for sure get one in this draft with Keegan Murray going to the Indiana Pacers. Murray was an elite bucket getter who was an offensive machine this past season at Iowa. He took a massive leap from year 1 to year 2. He ranked 4th in the nation in scoring, leading all power conference players in points per game. Murray averaged 23.5 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 1.9 blocks per game, while shooting 55% from the floor and 40% from 3. He was a first-team All-American selection for his offensive production, leading Iowa to a Big Ten tournament championship. He's a pure scorer, has a great shooting stroke, and can score off the ball with ease. Murray's big strength, that's knocking down perimeter shots. He made a career-high 8 threes versus Indiana in the Big Ten tournament semifinals. He's a great perimeter shooter off of screens. Murray can stretch the floor with his perimeter shooting, which should be able to open up the floor for Miles Turner to operate inside. Murray can also score in the paint at a high clip. He made 62% of his 2-point shots during the season. He can also get out in transition by scoring at the rim and on fast breaks. On the defensive side of the floor, Murray is viewed by scouts as a versatile defender with length who could defend wings and bigs. He could potentially play as a small ball center. He also made improvements as a defender by forcing turnovers and blocking shots during his second season at Iowa. My only concern for Murray, though, is that he did struggle offensively against stronger defensive competition. Iowa did not really see any overwhelming defenses this past season in the Big Ten that was able to lock down Murray and be more physical and tough. Only 4 teams in the Big Ten cracked the top 50 per KenPom per defensive efficiency. Those 4 teams were Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Penn State. 8 Big 12 conference programs finished in the top 40 this past season in KenPom per defensive efficiency, including 7 of those programs in the top 20. The reason why I point this out for the conference difference from the Big 10 to the Big 12 is because back in December, Murray struggled against Iowa State as the Cyclones, the number 4 defense per KenPom and defensive efficiency, held Keegan Murray to a season-low 9-point shooting just 4 for 17 from the floor. Murray fits the Pacers because they happen to need more front court options. Indiana ranked 25th in 3-point shooting, a category where Murray can boost, 30th in perimeter defense, which Murray has improved as a defender on the outside, defending both wings and bigs. The Pacers are coming off their worst season at 25-57 since the 1984-85 season, so it's rare to see Indiana fully rebuild. The Pacers have been to the playoffs in the last 9 to 12 seasons, so they're going to look more towards the safest pick, I feel like, with a player who is ready for the league and an older type of player, such as Keegan Murray, who is 22 years old for this upcoming season. After a one-year hiatus, the Pacers will look to see if they can get themselves back into the playoff picture. I've got Indiana selecting Keegan Murray at number 6. Now at number 7, I predict the Portland Trail Blazers to select AJ Griffin, freshman 6'6" small forward from the Duke Blue Devils. Griffin is one of the youngest prospects in this draft class. He will turn 19 years old in August. He has a super high ceiling with a ton of room to grow. Griffin moved from the bench to the starting lineup in his 15th game at Duke. Prior to the start of his freshman season, Griffin missed time due to a knee injury. That injury forced him to play minimal minutes off the bench during the first month of the season. Griffin then saw his playing time increase when he started to get more comfortable on the floor. He showed a ton of toughness in being able to battle back from injury and made an instant impact offensively in the floor. He emerged as a sharpshooter at Duke, being a knockdown threat. He averaged 10.4 points per game, shot 49% from the floor, and above 44% from three-point range. He's automatic from 3 when left wide open. He sets his feet quickly on catch and fire threes and has a terrific shooting stroke. He's got a great step-back jumper and creates space from the perimeter using an up fake or jab step when defended. Griffin cuts extremely well on the floor to generate spacing. He can also score at the rim and finish through contact. He wasn't featured much as a playmaker at Duke, but he knows how to limit turnovers. He had 3 turnovers or fewer in all his games at Duke. Defensively, Griffin has a ton of upside to grow, and that's due to his 7-foot wingspan. He wasn't as strong defensively at Duke, but the hope is that he can improve as a two-way player in the league. The concern for Griffin happens to be his injury history. He missed time in high school due to a knee injury and also missed time in the preseason. Portland, though, they should look at AJ Griffin at number 7 on the draft board. The Trailblazers could benefit from future two-way players in the league. Portland struggled on both sides of the floor this past season, ranking 27th in scoring and 27th in total defense. Portland has been a bottom-of-the-pack defense for the last 3 seasons in the league, and the hope here is that AJ Griffin can develop into a two-way player with a super high ceiling in the future. Griffin should be able to help boost the Blazers' perimeter, which finished 24th in three-point shooting. I've got AJ Griffin going number 7 to the Portland Trail Blazers. Now at number 8, I predict the New Orleans Pelicans to select Bennedict Mathurin, sophomore 6'6" shooting guard from Arizona. Mathurin had a big season at Arizona, which resulted in Pac-12 Player of the Year honors. He led Arizona to rank 3rd in the nation in scoring, averaging 84 points per game as a team. Mathurin himself averaged 17.7 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, and shot the ball 45% from the floor and 37% from three-point range. He was asked to do a ton more in his second season for the Wildcats. Mathurin is an unselfish player who brings tremendous energy on the floor. He is super athletic, explosive, a highlight reel player, a knockdown shooter. From the outside, he's better from three-point range off the catch than he is off the dribble. He's also great at running the floor in transition, finishing at the rim with alley-oop jams. He's also great at cutting to the hoop as well. That is something that Arizona emphasized a ton this season offensively under first-year head coach Tommy Lloyd. Mathurin has great size and length for a guard. He's listed at 6'6". He also rose in some big moments at Arizona. He scored a season-high 30 points in nail-biter victories against Illinois and TCU in the second round of the NCAA tournament. He also scored 27 points with a season-high 7 assists against UCLA in the Pac-12 tournament championship. Some of Mathurin's improvement areas include that he doesn't happen to play consistent defense. However, he does happen to show promise with his size and length that he can turn into a better defender. He's not expected to be a lead playmaker in the team, but he's better when others happen to playmake for him. The hope here is that Mathurin can turn into a future 3-and-D player in the league. He would make a great fit, though, for this Pelican squad. New Orleans is already well ahead of schedule with a playoff appearance in their first season under head coach Willie Green, and that happened to be without Zion Williamson. Mathurin took a big step up with his scoring at Arizona, and he could help make an impact to boost the scoring production in the Pelicans' backcourt. Devontae Graham struggled in his first season with the Pelicans. Graham was removed from the starting lineup during the playoffs. Mathurin happens to add in a ton more size and length than Graham, which Mathurin should be able to reduce Devontae Graham's minutes next season if he's still on the roster. The Pelicans finished at the bottom 4 of the NBA in three-point makes and three-point shooting percentage this past season. Mathurin could help bump up those numbers for New Orleans, hopefully along with transitioning into being an improved defender on the floor to help out the Pelicans' perimeter defense, which ranked 26th this past season on defending the three ball. I've got Bennedict Mathurin going to the Pelicans at number 8. Now at number 9, I predict the San Antonio Spurs to select Jeremy Sochan, freshman 6'10" power forward from the Baylor Bears. Though his offensive numbers are not eye-popping, Sochan rose up draft boards due to his defense. He was the sixth man for Baylor last season and played an average of 25 minutes per game. He can defend all positions and is familiar with switching on his opponents. He's got a high IQ, high motor, shows a ton of hustle, dives for loose balls on the floor, and plays with a ton of toughness and competitive fire. He constantly lockdowns ball handlers and can block and alter shots at the rim. Sochan constantly boxes out in the glass. He has excellent on-court awareness and is a solid passer in the open floor, pushing the ball in transition after a rebound. He was efficient offensively from 2 by getting to the rim and making 58.5% of his 2-point shots. He's a high upside player that has great defensive skills but needs polishing offensively. The big improvement area of his game, of course, is his offense. Sochan shot just 29.6% from 3-point range and 59% at the free throw line. He has promised, though, with his offensive value as he averaged 13.7 points per game during his last 4 games of the season. He turned just 19 years old in May and has a ton of room to grow with his offensive game, and he's already polished as a terrific defender. Sochan fits the Spurs because they are looking for a player that's got high upside, most likely, a player that has high IQ with a high ceiling, and that's where San Antonio could go potentially to Sochan here at number 9 in the draft. The Spurs have a knack of developing younger players at just 19 years old for Sochan. San Antonio was 23rd in points allowed. The Spurs could use a lockdown defender such as Jeremy Sochan to help out their defense. I've got Jeremy Sochan going to San Antonio at number 9. Now at number 10, I predict the Washington Wizards to select Johnny Davis, sophomore 6'5" shooting guard from the Wisconsin Badgers. Davis was a first-team All-American selection and named Big Ten Player of the Year this past season. He was the most improved player in all college basketball, averaging just 7 points per game his freshman season to 19.7 points per game during his sophomore season. Davis is an elite bucket getter who can make tough shots in the mid-range. He can take over games, and he did that multiple times at Wisconsin so his team could win. Davis carried the Badgers as their top scorer and top rebounder, averaging 8.2 rebounds per game for a 6'5" guard. His best game of the season was scoring a career-high 37 points along with snagging 14 rebounds in a 74-69 victory on the road at Purdue. That happened to be Purdue's only home loss this season at Mackey, going 16-1 at home. Davis also has a solid turnaround jumper. He's great in the post. He's good off the catch from 3, though he could be more efficient from the perimeter. He's a two-way player. He's an excellent defender that plays with a ton of heart and toughness. He hustles a ton on the floor, battles for loose balls, and crashes the glass. Davis averaged 2.1 assists per game, but outside of Davis, the Badgers' offense struggled to score. They only averaged 69.9 points per game as a team. Where Johnny Davis could improve his game happens to be his shooting efficiency. He shot the ball just under 43% from the floor and only just above 30% from three-point range. Davis, though, you have to remember, is that he had a super high usage rate at Wisconsin. So being surrounded by players like Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kyle Kuzma at Washington, that should be able to take the pressure off of Johnny Davis and help him become a more efficient shooter on the floor. Washington is also thin in the backcourt after trading Spencer Dinwiddie away to Dallas. So adding in Johnny Davis to the roster, that would add in a two-way presence to help out the Wizards, which Washington ranked 21st in offensive rating and 25th in defensive rating this past season. I've got Johnny Davis going number 10 to the Washington Wizards. Now at number 11, I predict the New York Knicks to select Dyson Daniels, 6'8" point guard from G League Ignite. I went back and forth between Dyson Daniels and Ty Washington for this selection. I feel like the Knicks will pick Daniels due to him being the more versatile and better defender out on the floor that can give the Knicks more size in their backcourt. Daniels averaged 11.3 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game, and 1.9 steals per game after playing last season for G League Ignite. He grew 6'6" to 6'8" during the pre-draft process. He is from Australia, turned 19 years old in March. His best trait is playmaking with great decision-making, firing in dimes to his teammates on target and on time to set up his teammates to finish the possession. Daniels is a strong passer. He puts his passes right on the money for lobs at the rim to his teammates. He's not an explosive point guard, but he is advanced in the pick-and-roll offense. He's an excellent ball handler who can control the pace of games. He's got great on-court vision. He improvises at times to score in the paint. Daniels made over 56% of his two-point shots, something that the Knicks need since they were last season in two-point makes and in two-point shooting percentage. He's also great at attacking downhill to get to the rim. Daniels incorporates a spin move to get into the paint. He started to work on a turnaround jumper later this season. He also has a floater game too for mid-range shots. Daniels is an excellent defender who plays hard and can defend multiple positions. Where Daniels can improve is his offensive efficiency, specifically from three-point range and at the free throw line. Daniels shot just 25.5% from 3 and just above 73% at the charity stripe during his time at G League Ignite. If he can improve those shooting numbers, Daniels should be able to be a solid two-way player in the league. He has a ton of upside to offer and he's only 19 years old. Once again, the Knicks need a point guard. It's the same case over and over again for New York every draft year lately. The Knicks played a ton of iso ball this past season, and they struggled to move the ball around, ranking last in the NBA in assists per game. Daniels, he could come in and help set up his teammates and give New York more size and more length at the point guard position. The Knicks have a defensive-minded system, and I think that Daniels' defensive versatility could catch the Knicks' attention as a fit in their system. That's where I got New York taking Dyson Daniels at number 11. Now at number 12, I predict the Oklahoma City Thunder to pick Jalen Duren, freshman 6'11" center from the Memphis Tigers. I already have Chet Holmgren going at number 2 to OKC, but I still feel like the Thunder need a true center who provides physicality and athleticism. Duren is the youngest player in the draft. He is coming off a terrific season at Memphis, averaging a team-high 12 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, and 2.1 blocks per game. He was efficient finishing in the paint, converting at around 60% from the floor. He is a big man who does not attempt the three ball. Everything is done in the paint for Duren. What he can best bring to the Thunder is his elite shot blocking ability. He uses his 7'5" wingspan to his advantage. He's physical, he's strong, bullies his defenders in the low post. He's also a lob threat at the rim, and he cleans up misses and is a great offensive rebounder. Duren had 21 points and 20 rebounds in the American Conference Tournament against UCF. Some areas where Duren can improve include him getting into foul trouble. Gets into foul trouble way too often. He averaged around 2.7 fouls per game. He happened to foul out twice, and he has 7 other games with 4 personal fouls. He also doesn't incorporate a jump shot into his game. At the free throw line, he struggled as well. He made just 62.5% of his free throw shots. He also has some mental lapses in the defensive side of the floor, so he'll have to improve his on-court awareness. Duren fits the Thunder because they are thin at the center position. Even if they do draft Chet Holmgren at number 2, OKC could still use a traditional big man in their roster. The Thunder are patient with developing their picks. Duren turns 19 years old in November, so using a high upside draft pick like Duren, the youngest player in the draft class, that could benefit Oklahoma City in the long run if he happens to pan out. That's where I got Jalen Duren going to Oklahoma City at number 12. Now at number 13, I predict the Charlotte Hornets will pick Mark Williams, sophomore 7-foot center from the Duke Blue Devils. Williams has the longest wingspan in the draft. He's got a 7'7" wingspan. He's got great athleticism, explosiveness, and is a terrific finisher at the rim. He was a valuable rim protector last season for Duke. He constantly boxes out when battling for rebounds. He's a solid defender in the post and is a terrific shot blocker who alters a ton of shots. He averaged 2.8 blocks per game, that ranked number 12 in the nation. He's great at establishing position in the post and has terrific hands receiving entry passes. He's also a lob threat at the rim and is good off the pick and roll. Mark Williams, he reminds me of Robert Williams III. Both of them explosive big men. Mark Williams improved from year 1 to year 2 in a ton of statistical categories. He shot 72% from the floor in the season. His 72.7% shooting statistic at the free throw line during his sophomore season was a 19% increase to his free throw shooting percentage during his freshman season. In both seasons, Williams was slow to make an impact, but eventually, he progressed into a double-double machine towards the end of the season. He could also have some hidden potential with his shooting. He attempted just 9 jump shots throughout the season, making 5 of them. His best jump shot that he made was in the NCAA tournament versus Michigan State. It was on a deep 2 baseline turnaround fadeaway jumper that was contested and made over Joey Hauser. Some of Mark Williams' improvement areas are his lack of quickness on defending out on the perimeter. Teams will see if they can look to go get space out on Williams on the perimeter and take advantage of him like they do in the playoffs when Rudy Gobert gets stuck to defend the three-point line. The Hornets, they're still looking for their next franchise big man. Mark Williams, he could be a tremendous fit. He moves well in the pick-and-roll offense. He could be a great fit for LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier playmaking for Williams as a lob threat. Mark Williams, he can help Charlotte's defense in rim protection. Last season, the Hornets were 25th in points allowed and 28th in defensive rebound percentage. That's where I got Mark Williams going to the Charlotte Hornets at number 13. Now at number 14, I predict the Cleveland Cavaliers will pick Ochai Agbaji, senior 6'6" shooting guard from the Kansas Jayhawks. Agbaji is coming off a season where he was named first-team All-American. He was also selected as the NCAA Tournament Most Outstanding Player and won a national championship at Kansas. He is one of the older players in this draft at age 22. Despite being an older prospect, he certainly deserves to be drafted in the lottery based on his past season. Agbaji is best known as a 3-and-D prospect. He improved all 4 seasons for the Jayhawks, as he was the leading scorer in the toughest conference in all college basketball defensively, the Big 12, averaging 18.8 points per game. He scored in double figures in 37 of 39 games throughout the season. The biggest improvement throughout Agbaji's career has been the development of his three-point shot. He shot a season-high 40.7% from the perimeter. He's got a quick release off the catch and create space using an up fake. He's also great at cutting to the basket and throwing down backdoor lobs. He's also strong and is a solid finisher at the rim. He had been on the NBA draft radar for quite some time. That's due to him being an excellent defender, as he can defend multiple positions and doesn't back down to the challenge of defending bigs. The big question going into this draft for Agbaji is how much more room does he have to grow in the NBA? He's improved all 4 years in college, but how much more does he have in store? Also, he started to go cold with his shooting efficiency during the first 3 rounds of the NCAA tournament. He shot just 12 for 36, that's 33.3% from the floor in the first 3 rounds against Texas Southern, Creighton, and Providence. However, he happened to bounce back. He shot the ball 18 for 29 in the last 3 rounds of the tournament against Miami, Villanova, and North Carolina. The Cavs are thin in the backcourt, and they could use Agbaji on their roster. Both Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert have dealt with injuries in the past, so picking up Agbaji, that's a must-get for the Cavs to boost Cleveland's backcourt depth. The Cavs ranked 25th in scoring, and they were mid-pack in perimeter shooting and perimeter defense. Adding in a 3-and-D player like Agbaji should be able to boost up the Cavs' offense and perimeter attack. I've got Ochai Agbaji going to the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 14. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to my channel for great content and awesome play-by-play live streams. If you haven't checked out the games I commentate, I'd highly recommend it. Let me know about your thoughts on these picks as well in the comment section down below. Also, I plan on covering my NBA Draft live reaction stream to all the picks of the draft on Thursday, June 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to catch my stream during that night. Thanks so much everybody for watching, as this has been Behind the Arc Basketball.